Good evening. This is Friday, October 3rd, 32 days until the 2008 presidential election. The Republicans think Sarah Palin did so well last night that she will not be appearing on any of the Sunday news talk shows, and there are no plans to have her do any live television interviews before the election. Not even on Fox. Not even if she gets the questions in advance in writing. Well, that's the same thing, sorry. Our fifth story in the countdown, what Republicans are saying they think about how Sarah Palin did last night in front of nearly 70 million viewers, 18 million more than McCain and Obama got a week ago tonight.
Could I begin by asking you very briefly, how about Sarah Palin last night, huh? How about her, huh? How about the job she did, huh? You know, I almost felt a little sorry last night for my old friend Joe Biden. She did a magnificent job.
At least one famous person agreed with McCain. We know so because the campaign put up a web ad quoting that famous person. Quote, "She killed it. It was her evening. She was the star," unquote. Signed, famous person. That unnamed famous person, we later learned, former Reagan speechwriter Peggy Noonan. Two national polls, however, conducted partially after the debate, showing voters unconvinced today. Obama's lead unchanged or up a point or two. The Gallup daily tracking poll, Obama 49, McCain 42 for a 7-point lead. Hotline's tracking poll puts the Obama-Biden ticket at 48 with a 6-point lead over 42 for McCain and Palin. For that reason, presumably, and one he elaborated upon, Obama considered the debate a success.
You know, there are a lot of noteworthy moments in that debate last night, but there's one that sticks out this morning. It's when Senator Palin said to Joe Biden, or Governor Palin said to Joe Biden, that our plan to get our economy out of the ditch was somehow a job-killing plan. This is what she said. I wonder if she turned on the news this morning, because it was just reported that America has experienced its 9th straight month of job loss. 9 straight months.
As for the governor herself, one might assume that if the McCain camp thought she had done a stellar job last night, they would have freed her to speak to the media today, but this was the only way real reporters could ask her about her own assessment of her performance last night.
Governor, how do you think you did?
I think we did very well outside. It was energizing, and I'm happy to have an opportunity.
And despite proclaiming her a star, the McCain camp refused to let her shine today on any other outlet than Fox Noise. And even that was taped. Ironically, when Palin complained to Fox about real journalism's gotcha questions like, "Which newspapers do you read?" Palin inadvertently suggested what the McCain camp really thinks of her when she was asked about McCain's pullout from Michigan, which was news yesterday, but which she apparently learned of today from one of those unnamed newspapers.
I read that this morning also. I fired off a quick email and said, oh, come on. You know, do we have to? Do we have to call it there? Todd and I, we'd be happy to get to Michigan.
Maybe it went to the spam file. But perhaps most telling, as I suggested, if you want to know what McCain really thinks of Palin's performance, her ability to handle herself on the fly, check your TV guide. Talking Points memo today noting that despite her claim she wants to somehow talk to voters without the filter of the mainstream media, despite McCain's claim that she can do live interviews, with a month to go, Governor Palin will not be appearing on a single Sunday morning news show this weekend, nor are any planned in the future. Joining us now, MSNBC political analyst Howard Fineman, also, of course, senior Washington correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Howard, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Quick tactical question. Why not say she did fine? Why such a hyperbolic praise when it is out of sync with what uncommitted voters thought last night, with what the polls showed today? Who is McCain talking to?
Well, he's talking to himself, number one, but he's talking to the Republican faithful. Because this is an emotional business politics. A presidential campaign is like a crusade. You need up news for your people to keep them engaged. He was speaking to Republican organizers in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, or in Columbus, Ohio. Don't forget the surround on this is the Michigan story that you mentioned, and not just the national polls, but ones in individual states like New Hampshire, where there's a new poll showing Obama with a double-digit lead. So he's trying to fire up his own troops, and he can use any good news he can get right now to do so.
But how does he square that good news and that lavish praise for her in particular with his refusal, or certainly his campaign's refusal, to let her speak on her own somewhere?
Well, because they're afraid to do so. I was down in St. Louis for the debate, and I was fascinated by the fact that afterwards in the spin room, Keith, the top McCain spin masters and leaders weren't there. Steve Schmidt wasn't there. Mark Salter wasn't there. All the other people who'd actually prepped her weren't there. My take on that is that they were sort of afraid in advance what the results were going to be and wanted to be clear of the blast zone. And I think they're concerned. I mean, she was very well prepared for this. She's good at this kind of thing. McCain sort of described her as though she were his pet Weimaraner there, and the way she went after Joe Biden. And it's true. She did a great job at that particular type of thing. She's good at that. She's good at giving the set speech in the big hall. She's not good answering questions that probe her knowledge when she's talking to the mainstream media, quote unquote.
And what did she mean about speaking without the filter of the mainstream media? Does that mean she wants to be on television live, but she doesn't want any questions of any kind? I mean, she and I both used to have that job. It's called being a sportscaster.
Well, that's exactly what it means, Keith. They don't want to take the chance. They want to use her in the ways that she's proven useful. The big convention speech, the attack dog speech in this debate form wasn't really a debate. It was a series of snippets. But they don't want to create the chance of unnecessary failure here. And you know, by the way, they're just the extreme version of what most politicians are these days. There are very few of them, except if they're obscure and in need of fundraising money, who really want to talk to the media anymore. So I can't entirely blame the McCain campaign. They're just the sort of heightened version of it, and Palin is the very tip-top of what is really a new trend in national politics. So ignore the media if you can.
But there are no conventions and there are no debates left for her to go to. What is she just going to sit in the audience at the two presidential debates and wave?
Well, they're going to have her out on the stump. They're going to have her, literally waving and talking to the faithful. They're going to keep the press at arm's length. They're going to keep the rope lines long and keep the press corps on the other side of the arena. That's the way it's going to be from here until the end. They might use her in paid advertisements. They might buy some time for her in individual states. There are all kinds of ways they can use what's useful about her without exposing her lack of knowledge on a whole raft of issues, her lack of experience and knowledge on a whole host of issues. They're not going to do it. And, we'll see how far it gets them. That thing last night was not enough to be a, quote, game changer, to use the cliche of this campaign. That was not a game changer. Let's see if there's any way she can still be one.
Obviously, some of that lack of knowledge is their fault, not hers. If she didn't know about the pullout from Michigan until today, until she was asked about it, what does that say about what she is within the campaign, purely internally?
Well, she's a useful prop, essentially. And by the way, I know of your attitude toward Fox. I think Carl Cameron, a political reporter over there, happens to be a very good reporter. And he's capable of and did ask her some tough questions. And I think it was revealing that she had no idea what was going on as far as the strategy of the campaign. They're going to have her, it's going to be on a need-to-know basis for her, but she'll be busy planning how she's going to run the Senate when she becomes vice president, so she has a lot to do.
Yeah, Carl's the first guy I would draft off that team, seriously. No, seriously. Howard Feynman of Newsweek and MSNBC. Thank you, Howard. Have a good weekend.
We just got him in big trouble, by the way.
No, I'm sure we did. All right, that's the last guy I'd ever take over there. He's a bum. Thank you, Howard. Have a good weekend.
Okay.